everybody. Welcome to another one of our Ranking Disney episodes. This is where we take a year of all the films from the Walt Disney Studios and we rank them, and it can be a very interesting experience depending on the year. Today we are doing 2013 for Walt Disney Studios, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hi there.
Yes. How's it going?
Hey, I'm well.
Good.
What an interesting year.
I know. Yeah, we should state up front that honestly, most of these movies I was not a huge fan of. There are 12 films altogether from the various studios, and I would give positive, fresh scores to 5 of them.
Yeah.
The rest are all so it's going to be interesting to see where we differ in our rankings as always.
I know. It's always fascinating. I know that it seems like they're always different kind of for the lower tier. And maybe we don't have the exact order, but often we're kind of in sync, at least like with the top 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So that'll be fun to see how we land with this one. Just because I'm with you, the movies aren't that great overall.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I will put a list of all of the movies in the description. So if y'all listening, if you want to leave your rankings, that would be really fun.
Absolutely.
So let's dive in. Let's start with number 12.
Okay.
Why don't you share your number 12?
Well, my number 12 is the Disney nature entry of the year, Wings of Life.
Yes.
I missed this one in the theater, so I watched it on Disney Plus. This, just for this podcast, and oh my gosh, I hated it so much. That you and I corresponded a little bit during. You were nice to help me through it. I hate, as we've discussed in previous ranking episodes, I'm just not a big fan of nature documentaries in general, and this one was just pure torture because number one, they just the way that it's marketed, at least with the poster and everything, that you see, it's butterflies and hummingbirds and stuff, but it's kind of about pollination.
Yeah,
really, and they're bees and bats and all these horrible creatures. But honestly, for me, Rachel, the thing that was most intolerable, if I'm using the word correctly, was the script and the narration. So it's Meryl Streep, and you think, okay, they get an A-list person to narrate this, and she's got a lovely voice, of course, and delivers the lines great, but it's all from the point of view of the flower. So she's like talking like she's a flower, and I was so I guess just annoyed. Just like, this is so stupid. I hated it. I hated it. The photography, of course, is beautiful.
Yeah.
But enough of my ranting. What did you have as at 12, and we can compare.
So that I have in general kind of stood up for these nature documentaries. They beat Star Wars on several occasions, which is scary. But I can't defend The Wings of Life. It is my number 12.
All right.
I just can't with the bugs. It's just not I can handle penguins, I can handle lions, bears, chimpanzees, all of that. I can get it. But when you get to bugs, I'm sorry, I'm out.
It's so disgusting. And then honestly, when the bats showed up in slow motion, I just honestly wanted to puke. And
we obviously we love Meryl. She's incredible, but
absolutely,
even she can't save it. It's just it is a slog, and it's just I just can't be made to care about bugs. They're an important part of our ecosystem, of course, but that doesn't mean I need to watch a movie about them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's poorly titled, even though many of these creatures, clearly they're flying creatures, but
I
don't know.
It's not as much of the butterflies as you think. No.
Hardly. There's some, and they're again, beautifully filmed and interesting, but even that, I was like, oh, this is so gross.
Because you can't really make a movie about butterflies because they're in the cocoon half the time.
Right.
So what you do? Just
and, and
what?
they can't kind of follow one of the classic Disney nature things, or even just Disney true life adventure thing,
Yeah.
where there's like a family unit, and there's
Right.
like the story about a family unit. It's like, I guess it could have been worse. It could have been like the Bat family, and then they, talk about oh, the
Yeah.
breeding and all the birth and all the stuff of these creatures. Like, oh, but
Yeah, it's not
anyway,
good.
torture,
I
torture.
agree. It's the worst of the Disney nature films by
Yeah.
far.
And the worst film of 2013 from
Yeah.
Disney too, because this is that we both.
Yes. All right. So what do you have at number 11?
Okay, so at number 11, I have um, Planes.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
also have
have
planes
you?
at
Oh,
11.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and I know we had talked about the Planes sequel in a
Hmm.
previous ranking. Well, what was your take on Planes? This
I
on this
mean,
one, the original, quote unquote.
yeah, I don't know. It's, I guess, harmless for little kids if they like planes. But I mentioned last time that I feel like kids don't really like planes that much. Like I
Yeah,
never really see kids with planes as opposed to like a whole bunch of, cars that they're playing with.
Cars.
Like,
Hmm.
I, I don't know. It's just a very like generic story. The animation is serviceable. It's
Yeah,
fine, but I would rather watch any of the other movies ahead of it.
yeah.
Like,
Uh,
and I think the sequel is better. If I was gonna watch a Planes movie, I would rather watch the sequel
okay.
personally. I think
Yeah.
it's better.
Yeah, I thought this one um, was so frustrating to me because, again, I'm with you, because I love the Cars universe so much, and this just some of the aesthetics choices I liked. I thought the story was really,
Yeah.
not great, and anyway, just yeah, it didn't work for me. And also, they put this in theaters back in
Mhm.
2013. I remember I went and saw it, not
Oh, you did?
expecting much. It was a movie slut moment, to go see it in the theater. But I just remember leaving the theater saying, "Wow, what a waste!" And I wondered, even the little kids that were around me. I wasn't with any kids, or any family members at the time for the to see it. I think I went with a friend, but they even the little kids that were around me, I remember them being very bored. They were really antsy and running around and stuff. And I don't know, maybe they were just antsy generally. But I just thought, this movie is even boring the audience that it's intended
Mm.
for.
Yeah. I don't know. It's at best forgettable, but
Yeah.
I would just rather watch, like I said, either the sequel, but I would certainly rather watch the Cars films because even
Yes.
even Cars 2 has a zaniness to it,
Hmm.
that a weirdness to it that's kind of entertaining. We were talking on Twitter the other day about the Pope Mobile and that Catholicism exists.
Yes. In the
So those
Cars
kind of
world.
like brain things
Yeah.
that you can have while watching while watching Cars 2
Yeah.
and make it more entertaining than anything in this.
Well, and the quality of the animation
Yeah, it's
too.
beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
it has lots of flaws, but it is a
Yeah.
very
Oh,
pretty
it's
movie.
it's totally full of flaws, but yeah,
Yeah.
but that's definitely more watchable. Yeah.
All right. So we've agreed so far. Let's
Yeah.
see about number 10. Do we agree? This could be a short ranking video. I mean, podcast.
All right. Who's going? You or me on
Yeah.
number
What do
10?
you have at 10?
I have the Lone Ranger.
Me too.
I hated this film so much.
Yeah, it's a rough sit. It really is. It
Yeah.
is long and uh I mean it does have a few fun pieces of action
Yes,
spectacle.
there's a couple of action sequences that are really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at 2.5 hours long, it feels it. And Johnny Depp and Army Hammer don't have any chemistry
No
together.
chemistry. Yeah.
And they're just sort of flat, and it feels like them all trying to recreate the magic of the Pirates movies, but just with none of that energy.
Yeah, it was really a bummer because I thought that the film had potential, you know, and I didn't necessarily mind Army Hammer's performance, but it seemed to me that it's such a critical relationship is the relationship he has with Tano, and then and as you said, they no chemistry and
Yeah.
um just not just really, really a disappointment.
There's also some really weird dark moments in the movie,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when the guy eats
Oh,
brother's heart. That was
so
weird.
gross. Yeah.
And the whole structure of it, of telling the story to the little boy,
Yeah.
that didn't work. That felt like you could cut all of that out for sure.
Mhm.
And uh, it just feels awkward. Like, I know that they said that Johnny Depp has some Native American ancestry, but I don't know. I think they should have got someone else.
I it was just and I had wondered about that if they had if they had had a different cast, if they actually hired a Native American, or someone who's got primarily Native American blood,
Mhm.
and and again hiring for better chemistry, etc. But still, um, the story was convoluted. I'm with you. I didn't really like the narrative, and I was impressed with that. One of those train sequences. I
Yeah.
know that they had spent a lot of money and built a really fancy set and all that, and it was. I thought some of the cinematography was
Mhm.
good and it had a bit of a wow factor, but it just wasn't consistent throughout
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah, and the bad guys don't work at all.
Yeah,
William
they don't work.
Fichtner, I mean, he usually is great, but I don't like him in this, and Helena Bonham Carter is terrible in this
Yeah, she's
movie,
terrible in it.
and I normally love her.
I do too. She's normally just like one of my favorites. Yeah, it was a bad deal.
Yeah, I agree. It was a missed opportunity, and it's just so strange to me because I don't understand why it is that Disney just does not seem to be able to make a new successful franchise.
Yeah.
That every single time that they have tried, it has been underwhelming since the Pirates movies.
Yep.
Like, even something this year, like Jungle Cruise, which was okay. It was not what I was hoping it would be from the trailers and previews. I was hoping it would be really great, and it was just
It
okay.
was just okay. Yeah, like the
Yeah,
Jungle Cruise was fun, but not great.
yeah, and I
And
just why can't I mean, I guess it's a tough thing to start a franchise, but
yeah.
you would think that Disney, with all of its brain power and creatives involved, that they would have be able to come up with something. I mean, what
Mhm.
was the first Pirates movie? That was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah, what was it? Like 2003?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so that means for practically 20 years, they have not been able to get a single new franchise off the ground
Yeah.
that's not tied to one of their existing IPs. It's crazy.
It's
I don't know, it's
crazy.
weird. It's very strange. But anyway, yep, Lone Ranger, it's not great.
And we both have it at number
Yeah,
10.
we both have it in number
I
10.
wonder if maybe now we'll start, diverging a little bit. We'll
Yeah,
have to.
I went back, and the next 4, I
Oh, they were
moved
hard.
around a lot.
They
I
were
moved
hard
around a
to
lot.
place. Yeah, they were
Uh,
hard.
so what do you have at 9?
At 9, I have Oz the Great and Powerful.
Yeah, I have that at 8, so almost the
Okay,
same.
so
Yeah,
not too far off.
no. I really debated about putting this above of the Marvel films just because I think it's so pretty.
Yeah.
But I really, really don't like Mila Kunis's character in this movie. She is so annoying.
She was talk about bad casting.
Oh, yeah. And I normally think she's fine, but
It didn't work.
she was terrible in this, and Uh, and James Franco's just so flat and bland, and the movie is so boring. I was just
Yeah.
like, it's over 2 hours long, and it is very pretty,
Yeah, I
but
thought, the CGI was looked great because
Mhm,
that's all it was,
right.
was the total CGI fest. But yeah, I think James Franco just couldn't carry it.
No.
And I didn't, yeah, I'm with you. I didn't like Mila Kunis. I didn't really like Michelle Williams in the role in it
Mm,
either.
yeah.
Um,
Why do you think that Hollywood has just completely failed in any new adaptations of Oz? Like, I mean, from Return to Oz, which I hate. There's
I
there's this,
know, it's
Oz the
like,
Great and Powerful. There's The Wiz, which is pretty terrible. I mean, it's okay as a play, but it's not a great movie.
yeah,
Um, it, I know there's been others, but why do you think that there's so much potential there, but it has not been. The Muppets Oz is awful. I
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
every time. There
Every
has not
time.
been a successful, unless you count Wicked as, being a spin-off, and that's
Yeah.
not a movie, but
It seems like Wicked, the stage production is the only thing that's even come close.
yeah,
Uh, and I think, that's a really good question, Rachel. I mean, the first thing that came into my mind is just because the one from 1939 is just so classic, so well made, so iconic, so ingrained in everyone's brains that that could be part of it. But I don't know. It just they try, but nobody can pull it off.
yeah. It's really weird. I mean, you just think I know that part of the problem is that MGM owns the rights to a lot of the IP within
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz, things like the
So you
Ruby
have to,
Slivers and
yeah.
Slippers and the Yellow Brick Road and things like that. And so they're forced to kind of go into the deeper mythology of the books
Mhm.
and not talk about a lot of the things that we know and love in the Wizard of Oz. And so it
Yeah.
makes it tricky. But I mean, especially with someone like Sam Raimi in the helm, you
Well,
just
the talent is good, you know?
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
it
they've all been
just
great in other stuff.
didn't, yeah. I thought this one just really fell flat.
Mhm.
And I'm with you. So have all the others except for Wicked.
Yeah, it's just weird, and I think it's because there's maybe I don't know, it's just a hard kind of mythology to uh, make positive find that line between because, like, for instance, Return to Oz is so dark, and it,
Yeah.
goes too far. She's
Yeah.
getting
It's too
electroshock
dark.
therapy and stuff like that. And you have darkness in the original, of course. That's the whole reason she sings "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," but it's always coupled with sort of the hope and the goodwill and the friendship and other things. It that balance is, I think, very tricky.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I wonder with this, I mean, I talked about this. I can't necessarily blame the CGI, but
Hmm.
just sometimes CGI heavy movies, at least for me, sometimes they just don't work.
Yeah,
If it's just for lack of really being able to take your brain, to this place that they're trying to present. Sometimes I refer to it as CGI throw up, and it's kind of a
yeah,
gross, sorry, it's kind of a gross phrase, but
yeah,
it's often what it feels like. That's what I remember with this one. It's just like all I'm looking at is this stuff, is this place, and I don't even necessarily want to go to this place that they're presenting, you know. Um,
yeah. It's a
and
weird thing. I was actually I was talking about it in my blind spot review for last month was on the original Godzilla from
oh
1954, and I was talking about how just with both King Kong and Godzilla, the originals, they have so much more charm to them and so much
yes,
more. They're just more interesting,
hmm,
despite the lack of realism that you
yeah,
get in the CGI. Like I would way rather see the the creativity in the stop motion and the suitimation
yeah,
in those films than the CGI realism of it's
yes,
just there's more creativity to it to
yeah,
me.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's
Well,
very interesting.
I had a 9. I had The Fifth Estate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is one I struggled with a little bit because it is
Oh,
well
absolutely.
made. It's well done as far as the acting, I think is all good. Great cast, but I don't
Oh,
know. I
it's a
just
stellar cast, but I mean,
yeah.
I have it at number 8. So we just kind of
Oh my
swapped
gosh.
those two.
Yes, because I just think Julian Assange is a snake, and I don't really appreciate a movie being made to kind of I mean, it's not a total hero piece, but it's more than I'm really comfortable with, and I think I don't know, I just don't think he's a good person. I think he was a traitor, and, uh, I just so more it's more on sort of the subject matter and the person. It's well done, but
I just kind of felt this was a complicated one in that
yeah,
the yeah, I'm with you. The like Julian Assange to make him in a way, I mean, they're making him the protagonist,
right.
even though it's almost like it's more like Daniel Bruhl's character is the protagonist, but it's all Julian Assange, you know.
Mhm,
And Benedict Cumberbatch does a, I mean, of course he's great in it, you know, most everything
mhm.
he does, right? And so I and all of the actors were. I mean, you know, they've got Stanley Tucci and Laura Linney,
Yeah.
and it's like I want to like this movie, but I just never could get into it. I I saw it in the theaters, but I rewatched it because it was one that I just didn't have really kind of fresh in my brain,
Mhm.
and it's like, well, no wonder because it's just not a good film. I mean, no, I think I saw it and
Yeah.
then just completely forgot about it
I
because,
had never seen it, so this was a
uh,
first time watch for me.
and I didn't think I had mixed feelings about the way it was made. Again, I think there was a lot of craftsmanship and care, and it's complicated in that you know there's all this so much of the action is people typing, and how do you make that interesting?
Yeah.
And I thought that they really tried, but so much of it, I kind of got sick of of the close-ups of people, and kind of just again like the way it was shot, and um, again, I think mostly too because it's just like, man, Julian Assange just seems like he's just a bad dude.
Yeah.
Um,
I wrote in my review, I said it felt like watching people stare at screens for 2 hours. Which is accurate.
yep,
And
exactly.
Julian Assange is a snake.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
and
we're on the same page
it
of
was
this.
hard for me to pick again which one to do as you know as 8 or 9 because almost it was almost like a tie
Mhm.
between those two for me
Yeah, same.
for different reasons, but yeah.
Well, so it's interesting because the next 2 for me are the Marvel movies because I actually have them I have Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World next to each other in my Marvel rankings. I
Oh,
basically
interesting.
yeah, I feel about the same for they're both 2 of my least favorite Marvel movies. And so I have Thor: The Dark World at 7. And I do sometimes defend this movie a little bit because I think that anything with Thor and Loki, I'm going to enjoy at least a little bit
Uh-huh.
because I love them. I love their
Yes.
characters, and I do think that the final battle is pretty fun, where it's switching between the different different worlds
Yeah.
and all of that. Like it's entertaining, but all the stuff with Maligan is such a snore. It's
Mhm.
terrible.
Yeah.
And so it's I don't think it's as bad as other people seem to think it is. I still think it's a watchable Marvel movie, but I recognize its flaws. I certainly didn't go fresh on it. I think that Natalie Portman is really bad, and she has no chemistry with Chris Hemsworth. We'll see if she can when she comes back in the next one. We'll see. But I have Thor: The Dark World as 7.
Uh, I have it at 6.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and uh, um, and for all the reasons that you just stated,
Yeah.
you know, I completely agree. With you. The fun stuff is the Thor and Loki relationship, and just those
Mhm.
actors. You know, Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston are so great in those roles.
And Endgame did help to make Thor: The Dark World a little bit better
Yes, it
because,
did. It put some bit more into
mhm,
perspective, and yeah,
which is a great thing that the MCU can do. I'll say the same thing about Iron Man 3 with Shang-Chi. You know,
yeah,
that made
yeah.
that movie better. And so that's one thing that Marvel has in its uh, deck of cards they can play.
So for my number seven, I have Teen Beach Movie,
Uh-huh. So what did you
and
think of this one?
well, I'm trying to embrace the decom, as you joke about. This had much. There was a lot to like, and for me, a lot to just be kind of
Hmm.
a little bored and frustrated with.
Mm,
It's cute. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to rip on it too much because I feel like it's very earnest.
I thought
And
that you would like its sort of homage to classic
yes, to
uh,
the classic beat,
beach movies.
and I did actually. I thought that the musical numbers were fun, and there was a lot of like I got really frustrated, Rachel, with the plot. And
Mm,
again, I don't want to overthink. I mean, I think clearly I'm overthinking it, but I just because it was, and I know that was part of the discovery of the movie. It was never really clear like how the two kids from the modern day got put into the movie. I mean, it happened.
yeah,
There was like the water and the storm and stuff, but it was never really
that's
clear.
fair.
And then also never really clear to me how they could get back. And I know that that's part of it. Again, they have to figure it out. And
Yeah.
there's the villain plot and stuff, which is again kind of classic Annette Funicello, Frankie,
Hmm.
Avalon, Beach Blanket, Bingo, etc.
Yeah.
Those are just the classic '60s beach movies. But um, so the plot just was driving me crazy. And then
Yeah.
and the villains were funny. And again, I don't really like those little villain plots in those Frankie and Annette movies either.
Mm.
So that was my thing. Again, I don't wish to overthink it because the kids are talented, and as we've discussed, I love that the American musical lives on in DComs.
Yeah.
That's super fun. Uh,
Yeah.
but
I agree. I have this higher because I think Teen Beach is one of the best of the Disney musicals.
oh, nice. Okay.
In my opinion, I think
Yeah.
it's got good songs. It's a clever concept. It's a nice way to introduce kids to movies of the past and
Yeah.
maybe get them to watch some of those. It would be fun. So anyway, so what do you have at 6?
So at six, I have Thor.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have Iron Man 3 at
Okay.
6 because it's not, so people get upset that when people say they don't like the twist. I would have been fine with the twist if they had replaced what we were going to get with something interesting, but that's not what they did. So if they had replaced an interesting character of the Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, in this with something cool and interesting, then I would have been fine with the twist. But instead, they replace it with another boring man in the suit that has a grudge against Tony Stark. We've seen that a million times. I was not interested in that. And he was just so bland. I mean, I can't even remember his name. And I was like, why did we
Uh,
go from something that was weird and kooky and funny to this guy that I can't even remember? And I mean, I do like that the movie set at Christmas. I like the relationship between Tony and the little boy. That the whole idea of Tony kind of dealing with his PTSD from the Avengers and what happened there. I think that was good. I think Robert Downey Jr. is good. I'm not a big Shane Black fan. I
yeah.
haven't really liked any of the movies of his that I've seen.
Hmm.
So his style is just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
The crassness, I just, it's just, I didn't love not the nice guys that everyone else loved. I just not a big fan of his style. And so I didn't really love it here in the Marvel movie. I can see why other people like it because it is different and it tried something different. and I don't hate it. I don't really hate any Marvel movie,
Yeah.
but I just didn't really like it, and I don't think it works. And so that's why I have it 6.
I have a little higher, but I'm not critical of any of your statements. I
Mhm.
understand. I understand what you're saying for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you have at 5?
So at 5, and I can't believe I have it as high as I do, is Delivery Man.
Yeah, same with me. I have it
I
at 5.
do.
Yeah.
Okay. You
Yeah.
know, I surprisingly enjoyed this movie.
Me
and
too.
and I kind of can't believe it because, but also, I was comparing it in a way to The Fifth Estate because I thought, here's a movie that I probably shouldn't like. That isn't, I mean, I guess it has a better character arc because there's no character arc really for Julian Assange. He's just like a creep the whole show.
Yeah.
Whereas in Delivery Man, Vince Vaughn's character is really trying to be better,
Mhm.
and so I think I enjoy that. But a great, a great cast, kind of kind of a an interesting plot,
Yeah.
but,
Based on a true story.
yeah, based on this true story, um, and but I just liked it. I just I ended the movie and I mean it just made me feel happy. The way things worked out in this film.
Yeah. This is a really sweet movie.
It is.
I do think it kind of I got was I got kind of tired of it towards the last like third of the movie. It was starting to kind of lose me a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
but it has a sweetheart, and it's about someone trying to be better, as you said, and trying to be a good father, and just try to interact with people, make their life better. Kind of it gets this sort of guardian angel almost feel to it in a
yes.
way, which was cute. And it does have a great cast. Kobe Smulders,
Uh,
she's just gorgeous in this
she
movie.
is so good in this movie, and
Yeah,
I feel like she is such a critical role. She plays such a critical role in it.
yeah,
And I'm with you because in the third act, when things start to really, it was going south for me too. And then Colby Smell, she brought it back.
yeah.
And a tribute, I think, to the screenwriters as well, and that the way they wrote the script.
And Chris Pratt. This is our last cinematic sighting of Fat Pratt. He's great.
He is so good in this
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah,
He plays the attorney of Vince Vaughn's character. He's
yeah.
really good.
He's funny. And then Britt Robertson is one of the kids, and Jack Rayner. I love him so much because he's in Sing Street, which is my favorite.
All right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
You
yes.
know, I'm always excited when I see him in a movie, except for Transformers 4. It's terrible. But the rest of this, I'm always rooting for him because I just love him as an actor. I think he's really great. And so it's this charming. If people haven't seen it, it's this movie about this man who finds out that he, through being a sperm donor in his 20s, he has 533 children, and 142 of them want to meet him. And so it's surprisingly charming.
It is. It's surprisingly charming. I think you know, and they focus on what maybe 5 or 6 of the kids, so you get to know them just a little bit
Yeah.
better too. I think the way that they handle his reaction and relationship with one of his children who's severely handicapped,
Hmm.
uh, that's tender, and
Yeah.
that could have gone, I think, in any number of directions. You know, either maudlin or disrespectful. I thought they handled it in just a beautiful way. And that's what I think when I really got hooked. I think was when that was going on. I thought, okay, I like how this film is developing, and I really like again. I think Vince Vaughn's character has a really great character arc in this film.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is Teen Beach Movie, is where I have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think this is fun. I think it's a fun romp. an homage to Gidget
Yeah.
and the movies of the '60s, Net Funicello, all of that. And it has some fun choreography. It has some uh, enjoyable songs. I like Ross Lynch. I think he does a good job for this kind of thing. And like I said, I would put this as one of the better DComs. Just period. If I was making a ranking, this would definitely be in my top 10
Oh,
of
excellent.
favorite
Okay.
DComs. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I think too, in a way, I feel like I still am somewhat, even though what now I've watched more than I have in the past, which was zero. Uh,
Right.
I, you know, I'll be glad to as we continue to watch some more, and I probably could change my mind on it after I see some other ones.
Hey, at least 2013, you only had to watch one. So that was nice.
Yay.
Unlike some
Thank
years where
goodness.
there's four.
I know there's like four, and then match that with the Lone Ranger and Oz the Great and Powerful, right? You're like, oh,
I'd way rather watch almost any of those DComs than watch Oz the Great
just
and Powerful
yeah,
or the Lone Ranger again.
I'm with you. I'm
All
with you.
right. What's
Uh,
your number four?
my number four is Monsters University,
Okay.
and um, yeah, I really like this film a lot. I just like the other three that are
Hmm.
left better, but this I think this film it is. I mean, I love that Pixar tackled the college movie. I
Yeah.
think that's and I thought that they aced it, but they also I'm so surprised by this movie in that they uh how what happens to Mike and Sully, that they get kicked out of college, and and to me that was so unexpected
Yeah.
and unexpected, and I thought that was a real brave move on the filmmaker's part,
Hmm.
uh, to
Yeah.
take it in that direction.
I have this at three. So, and I agree with you. I think that it has a really bold message
Hmm.
of your dream might not come true. Hey,
Hmm.
kids, surprise! It
Yeah.
might, and you might have to figure out a new dream.
Hmm.
You might work really, really hard, and it's not going to work out, and that's okay. And that may be even for the best. And I love that. I think that's a really great message for kids,
Yeah, it's an
for
important
everyone.
life lesson,
Yeah.
and just expertly done
Hmm.
in this, I think, in this context. And I love the animation. I love the new characters that they brought in
Hmm.
for it, and it's I think it's just a really good film.
Yeah, and you and I did a whole
Yep.
episode on underrated animation on
Yes.
Monsters University.
On Monsters
So,
University, I was just gonna say that was so fun to be reminded of our
yeah.
discussion. Yeah.
So I'll put a link in the description if people haven't listened to that
Excellent.
episode. They should because it was a good discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, the flaws with this movie is just it doesn't quite make sense with what they say in the original Monsters Inc. as far as how they met. So that's a problem.
Little continuity problem. Yeah.
Yes. And then also, I do think that the scare games go on a little long.
Yeah, the scare game's gone. Yeah. I mean, I think that's another reason why I have it just a little lower in my top 5, because
Mhm.
there's just some things about it that I don't think are just necessarily perfect, but there's much to like about
But
about it.
I do think it's probably the most underrated Pixar film.
Underrated.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what you
Agreed.
have at 3?
So at 3, I have Iron Man 3,
Yeah.
and as I said, I don't disagree with what you say about it at all. I don't know why I like it as much as I do. I, I mean, I've tried to analyze it, and particularly as I was trying to make this ranking, uh, I think I love so much that Tony Stark gets stripped of everything,
Mhm.
and he has to figure out a way to rebuild. And to me, I think that's what really carries it. I don't necessarily love Shane Black films, but I thought in this context it was interesting. He was an interesting hire for this film,
Mhm.
and for me, uh, for me. it worked. I thought I'm with you. It's Aldrich Killian, right? Is the name of the bad dude,
Mm-hmm.
um, played by Guy Pearce, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the one who, when we find out that it's really not the Mandarin, and I know that a lot of, like, particularly I think comic book purists too, and I don't blame them at all, were really mad about how the Mandarin was portrayed uh, in Iron Man 3. But I don't know. I just thought that Ben Kingsley was hilarious as Trevor. You know, and I
Mm-hmm.
love how they brought him back into
Yeah.
Shang-Chi.
I love that too. That was really good.
That was surprising and really funny.
Yeah. I just keep thinking, why are we spending time with this snooze of a guy? It's the same way I felt about Spider-Man Far From Home, that why do we have to have a interesting villain swapped out for another guy with a grudge against Tony Stark? And we've already seen
Yeah,
that so many times.
so many
Even when
times.
he's
Yeah,
dead,
yeah.
we're getting people with a grudge against Tony. I mean, I don't know. It's just so boring to me. And uh, so that's what frustrated me. And I just get annoyed when people are like, "Oh, you don't like this twist." Blah blah blah. I'm like,
Oh
it's not
no.
the twist. It's not that there was a
Yeah,
twist. It's what they twisted him out for.
right, right. And I'm not critical of what you're saying at all, Rachel.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just say I just, for me, I just like,
yeah.
I you know
And I do like that, all of that with Tony. I think that his PTSD and dealing with his anxiety, that all really rings true for me. And I think that uh, that Robert Downey Jr. is excellent in those scenes. So
yeah.
I can see why you put it at 3. But let's talk about number 2. I actually went back and forth between my number 2 and my number 1 quite a bit. What do you have at number 2?
At number 2, I have Saving Mr. Banks.
Me too.
Okay, okay.
And I really thought about picking this as number 1 because
Yeah.
there is one scene in Saving Mr. Banks that, if you're talking about when movies actually like change you and make you a better person, I would put this scene very high up on that list. When he's talking to her and he's talking about how he was a kid and his father and getting the papers,
The newspapers.
and he says I'm tired of remembering it that way. And that really moved me and made me
Mhm.
think, because we all have those things in our lives that kind of are wounds, that we have a hard time letting go of. And I sometimes, people would say like forgive and forget, and I would really struggle with that because it's impossible. You can't forget. It's part of your life. So like, what do you do with it? And the whole idea of I'm tired of remembering it that way. To that you're not going to forget, but you can forget the pain
Mhm.
and start to heal. And that was so moving. The first time I saw it, I was bawling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's such a moving, lovely movie. And I understand the criticisms as far as the portrayal of Peel Travers, but I have less sympathy for her because I really don't like her books. I think that Disney elevated it by a huge amount, made it way better. I don't think that her Mary Poppins books are very good, but that doesn't mean she can't still be proud of them, obviously. But she signed the deal. She agreed to have the movie made.
Yeah, she did.
So, I mean, then she's gonna, and they have like the actual tapes of her saying a lot of this, and they play it at the end. So I mean, what did she think was going to happen when she sold the rights to her book for a movie by
Yeah.
Disney? Did she think that she was just going to have it however she wanted? Like, that's not
Yeah.
how it works when you so I don't know. I understand why some people hate it, but I don't agree with them.
I love this movie so much.
Yeah.
This uh I I was so wowed by it. I thought it was so beautifully made.
Hmm.
I thought Tom Hanks played an excellent Walt Disney. Because I felt like he he wasn't necessarily just trying to imitate him. I felt like he was just trying to channel him.
Yeah.
I guess in a way, or just like But I loved how it was filmed on the studio lot. The actual studio lot in Burbank, because I love that place. That's one of my favorite places. I've had
Yeah.
gratefully I've had the chance to go there a few times, and I never want to leave. Get on that wonderful studio lot, just because I think about all the history, and everything that was there. And I love the script.
Yeah.
I love how they talk about P.L. Travers' backstory.
Colin Firth
About
is
her.
so great.
Oh, Colin Firth is
Oh,
so wonderful in this movie. Yeah, I mean Colin Farrell, excuse me. Um,
yeah.
and just it's just it's terrific.
I mean, it really has an incredible cast.
Oh,
Obviously, Emma Thompson is a legend. She's incredible.
she's just so good at it.
Yeah, and Tom Hanks, Colin Farrell, Paul
Paul
Giamatti,
Giamatti,
yeah, Jason
Jason
Schwartzman.
Schwartzman, and B.J. Novak as the Sherman brothers. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
they're a little old for the roles,
Yeah,
but
but
who
still,
cares?
I thought they pulled it off.
Like they definitely, the Sherman brothers would be like very old at this point in their career. But it works. They did a good job. Very, very sweet, very charming, and I, I just, like I said, that scene. I'm tired of
Yeah.
remembering it that way.
Hmm.
I love that scene so much.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's just a beautiful movie.
Mm.
I think hopefully one that's just going to hold up well over time
Hmm.
too.
I
That
think
people
so.
will be able to see it and kind of get a not only a snapshot of that time period, but I think a real interesting insight. Yeah, as as you aptly said about uh, you know life and how we interpret it and how we move forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I, I, I think that almost every modern reader will agree that Mary Poppins books are not good. They're really not. So, number one, we both agree
Yes,
is
Frozen.
Frozen. It's pretty tough, I mean, to beat out a such an iconic Disney musical as Frozen. I think it has such wonderful characters, and Anna and Elsa to have two princesses in a movie is really special. Their
And then there's
relationship,
sisters.
yeah, they're sisters, and of course, Let It Go is maybe the best I Want song. It's certainly up there with Part of Your World
I
in
would
that.
agree. In fact, I think it would probably be right after Fall. Part of your world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the whole idea of Elsa being a character who's had to hide who she is and uh, and had to go through this trauma is really moving to me. And by the end, when she's finally able to, well, she I mean she thinks that she has let it go in the middle, but by the end, she realizes that truly the love of her sister, that's the real, not isolation, but love is the real answer. And she has a whole new acceptance of herself and her family by the end, which is beautiful. And I think that Olaf is one of the best of the side characters of Disney, because I know some people find him annoying, but in my opinion, he actually matters to the story in a way that
Mm-hmm.
most of the sidekicks don't. He
Mm-hmm.
is there to tell Anna that, oh, you don't know anything about love, and some love is worth melting for, and all of that. I mean, makes him a really key character to the story, and all the music is wonderful.
Well, I
Uh,
think the music is one of the
oh
highlights of
yeah,
this film
agreed.
too. Um, the
The Lopez.
Lopez's.
And
They're so-
the animation is beautiful.
oh, it's stunning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
we've covered both Frozen and Frozen 2 in our Talking
yes.
Disney series. So we can put some links down to that. It's just it's a beautiful movie. It's classic Disney.
it's it's just hard to beat. I think that it's
Mhm.
just such a good film. So beautifully crafted, fantastic characters, really good plot.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, some of the best. Not only are the songs great, I think the score by Christoph Beck is terrific too. And I yeah, I I'm a fan. Love this movie
Mhm.
a
Yeah,
lot.
me too.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, let's go over our rankings. So I have Frozen at 1. I have Saving Mr. Banks at 2. Monsters University at 3. Teen Beach Movie at 4. Delivery Man at 5. Iron Man 3 at 6. Thor: The Dark World at 7. Oz the Great and Powerful at 8. The Fifth Estate at 9. The Lone Ranger at 10. Planes at 11. And Wings of Life at 12.
All right, and then for me, I've got Frozen at number one. Number two is Saving Mr. Banks. Three is Iron Man 3. Four is Monsters University. Five, Delivery Man. Six, Thor: The Dark World. Seven, Teen Beach Movie. Eight, The Fifth Estate. Nine, Oz, Great and Powerful. 10, The Lone Ranger. 11, Planes. And at number 12, which is still it's still number 12, Wings of Life.
It just occurred to me that this is the first year we haven't really had any remakes, unless you count Oz the Great and Powerful,
Yeah.
which was a prequel. But we haven't had any. We didn't have to watch any of the live action
Thankfully.
remakes, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no live action remakes and yeah, it's and it was interesting too cuz you know and 12 films is kind of a small list
Yeah,
in a
it's
way in
true.
a lot of ways cuz it seems like it's the numbers have been definitely higher, as far
Maybe
as
because there's also no. Oh well, no. What am I saying? Maybe because the Good Dinosaur got moved,
yeah,
so maybe
stuff
that
got
was part
moved
of it.
around and yeah.
I'm trying to see. I did post on Twitter, and I got a ton of comments. We have uh, Shanshu says the Shanshu 73 says the best was Iron Man 3. The worst and the worst of the decade was the Lone Ranger. Cameron Ward says I think Frozen and the last third of Monsters University might be the only good thing from that year. Adam Sucklings he ranked everything, and he has Frozen, Oz the Great and Powerful, Monsters University, Iron Man 3, Teen Beach Movie, Thor: The Dark World, Saving Mr. Banks, Delivery Man, Wings of Life, Planes, The Fifth Estate, and The Lone Ranger. MC Myers says the order of the ones I've seen would be The Lone Ranger, Monsters University, Thor 2, Saving Mr. Banks, Iron Man 3. I enjoyed The Lone Ranger a lot, actually. So there you go. Kate McCree says, I think the only one I saw was Saving Mr. Banks, and I loved it. Jadam Sapp says Frozen and Monsters University are great, while Planes is pretty mediocre. Matthew Earnhardt, he says Teen Beach Movie, number one. Monsters University, Frozen, Oz the Great and Powerful, Saving Mr. Banks, The Lone Ranger, Iron Man 3, and Thor: The Dark World. LSR42 says, Iron Man 3, Frozen, Saving Mr. Banks. I've got to put Thor 2 ahead of both Lone Ranger and Oz, don't I? That was a rough year. And one more. So 22 Keller Joe says the only thing that matters is that everyone has Saving Mr. Banks at number one, Frozen, and Monsters University in their top three. That is
Excellent.
some thoughts from people. So let us
Yeah, fun to
know.
get other thoughts.
Yeah, let us know what you think and where you would rank these 12 films. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And thanks so much for your tweets and comments and everything. And this was a lot of fun, and it'll be fun to do 2012.
Yes,
That would be
I
great.
know. I'm already looking forward to it.
Me too. So where can people find you, Stanford?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark. I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com. And also follow me on Instagram, which is at moviespap, which is movies past and present.
Great. And we'll have all that in the description. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. check all of that out. Make sure you're also following the Hallmarkies podcast. We really appreciate that support over there. And please like this video. Please subscribe to our channel. And then also, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that so much. We also have the merch store, which has hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. So you want to check that out. And then we also have our Patreon group, which has tons of fun discussions. And we really appreciate that. Support's only $2 a month to join. And you get to be part of watch alongs and other fun things. So please help support the podcast. And thanks so much, Stanford. We will talk next month. And bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.